Hello everyone, thanks for joining us today. I'm Samadi Manjashri. I'll be moderating our discussion on crucial topic climate change and its effect on our communities. Today we are fortunate to have an esteemed news anchor who has been at forefront of sharing climate issues, Therunee Karunaratna.
Thank you for having me.
As we all know, news anchors like Therunee are in the front line of bringing us stories about extreme weather conditions, environmental changes, and how those affect on our communities. Today, our goal is to highlight those stories, raise awareness, and explore how we all can contribute climate actions. Okay, Therunee, let's start with something personal. Can you recall any particular memorable story that you reported that affect on climate actions, and what was the situation, and we would like to know how it affect the communities?
First off, thank you for having me, Sonade. Now, as of the date that we are filming, the most recent climate resulted incident that we reported on was actually from overseas. It was from neighboring India, where in Kerala, there was a landslide that saw around 200 people dead and around 200 more missing. And the government of India says that 1,600 people had been rescued. But obviously, this was a horrific incident and it will certainly have a lot of implications on the country, economic implications. So many families lost their loved ones. And this hilly district in Kerala was known for its cardamom plantations, for its tea plantations, and of course, it was also a tourist destination. It's important to note that as well. So this massive landslide will certainly result in a lot of economic implications in the area, and also, yeah, this landslide was resulted due to heavy rains, so which is of course an adverse climatic situation. So that's the situation, the most recent situation that I can recall that seemed to have a really adverse impact on the society, on the environment, and even on the economy of India.
Building on that, have you recently reported any extreme weather conditions or natural disasters that happen in the country? And also, we would like to know how did those events highlight the broader issues of climate changes?
So the climate-related conditions, Sanade, that we reported on was a few months ago. If you remember, Sri Lanka was battered by extremely heavy rains, which is of course an adverse climate condition. And I remember how hectic it was reporting the situation all around the country. We had reporters all around bringing us in the latest updates about what's going on in every single district in the country, and talking about the how this adverse climate issue is connected to broader climate-related problems. Infrastructure damage, of course, heavy rains that we did report on at that point had a huge effect on houses, people's residences. So many people lost their houses, they had to be moved to safe locations, and also buildings. There were slight landslides, although not massive landslides. Certain mounds of earth fell onto buildings, onto shops, and we saw infrastructure damage happening there. And electric poles, all of that part of infrastructure, and that was damaged. And it's all public property, it's people's property. So that's one major effect of climate change that we noticed happen. And also there was an agricultural impact. The people's plantations, especially in these rural areas, those people depend heavily on agriculture, and those plantations are everything. It's their only source of income sometimes. So we saw their plantations getting destroyed due to the extremely heavy rains that the country faced during the past few months. And also health risks. I think this is very important to talk about. There are plenty of waterborne diseases that could spread. It could turn even into an epidemic situation. Something that we also notice is the rise in dengue. So dengue was on the rise, especially around last year, and even this year there has been a significant number of deaths due to dengue, which is extremely worrisome. But the health departments are, of course, taking steps to mitigate this problem, to bring it under control, and also the economic cost. Now, the contribution of the people whose plantations are destroyed, whose livelihoods may be blocked due to adverse climatic conditions, such as heavy rains that we experienced a few months ago, that may have a huge effect on the GDP of the country, the economic contribution. And factors like that are how this most recent climate-related issue, which was heavy rains that we reported on, had on the long run.
In your experience, what are the pressing, or I would say the urgent climate issues that happen in the country and most probably the citizens are not that much aware of? Can you give us some examples as well?
Yeah, so there are a few climate-related issues that I believe Sri Lankans should be a little bit more aware of, as it affects them a lot more than they think. For starters, rising temperatures. Now, the increasing temperatures could lead to health-related issues, agricultural issues, and so much more. And also sea level rise. Now, sea level rise occurs mainly due to coastal erosion, and after all, we live in an island, and around the country there are people who depend on the fisheries industry, and rising sea levels, the rising sea water heat, all of this could affect the fisheries industry, and that could affect in turn the economy and also those people's livelihoods. That is also another major issue. We also have extreme weather events. If you only notice, before we experienced the extreme rainfall a couple of months ago, if you notice, there was extreme heat right before that, and then quite the opposite, extreme rainfall. So we have been experiencing fluctuating extreme weather conditions, especially over the past few years, and that could lead to long-term problems, and of course droughts, impacts on agriculture, matters as such, and also the biodiversity loss. Now, especially during extreme heat, that could lead to droughts, and in already arid areas, this is not really helping the case. There are certain parts in the country which do not experience rainfall for months, really long periods of time. And in those parts of the country, there could be endemic species of animals, and that could certainly lead to their demise. And later on, if it happens in a really large scale, that could even potentially lead to their extinction, which is something that we should be worried about as a country. And also, energy security, another important factor that we need to highlight. If we now in Sri Lanka, we're heavily reliant on hydroelectric power, and in case of extreme weather conditions such as extreme heat, if those reservoirs water levels go down, that would result in power cuts, which we have experienced in the past actually. So these are all issues that I believe Sri Lankans should focus on and take certain measures in their own capacities, and also the government should take steps in whatever ways possible to eradicate the problems resulted by these climate-related issues.
Can you recall any instance where reporting influenced to raise awareness actions on climate issues? And we would like to know what was the story and what was the outcome exactly.
Well, Sonali, usually the media acts more like an intermediate party in this situation. We connect authorities with the people, we report incidents to the people, and to answer your question, I feel like the number of times where we have led to public awareness is a bit too many to count, because throughout the years the media has been in the forefront, bringing the people the very latest news. But if you want, I can talk to you about how we reported during the past few months when the country was experiencing heavy rains. We made the people aware about factors such as road closures, so that would not lead to traffic disruptions around the country. We also reported landslide warnings. After all, people, I mean, yes, the Met Department does have a website, but people very rarely go on there. They all tune into the news to hear what's up next, what's going to happen where, and all of that. So we have been in the forefront as media to report all of that to the people. And also about health issues, we get officials from the health departments, from the Ministry of Health, to talk to the people. Sometimes even from the National Dengue Control Unit, we get certain officials to give us a voice cut, or whatever they want to let the people know. We connect those authorities with the people. So in those ways, I believe that the media is certainly playing a massive role when it comes to climate-related stories and climate change and any other factor regarding climate.
Therunee, as we consider the stories that you have shared, now let's talk about impact on communities. During your reporting, have you encountered any sort of community that are vulnerable to climate changes? What are the challenges they are facing and how they have been coped?
Yes, Nandi. Now, three main vulnerable communities that I can think of are farmers in the dry zone, people in the hill country regions, and also the fisheries community in the coastal areas of the country. Now, I can specially elaborate on the farmers in the dry zone because I had an experience last year where I spent 5 days in Anuradhapura, and this was during a dry season. They said that Anuradhapura had not experienced rain for, I think, almost 1 year, those regions. So they were telling us that they were going through a severe problem, especially because those people, they rely heavily on Chena cultivations, also known as Henvaga. So those people grow grains. Some people have small paddy fields in those areas, and those people were really going through a lot. There was no drinking water in those areas. We saw the condition of drinking water, and the water was not even transparent. It was so muddy, and that was the water that they had to consume. We visited really remote villages, villages of names that we haven't even heard of before. And those people, around half of, let's say, there were 100 people in one village, around 50 people would be suffering from chronic kidney disease. Now, that does not mean that it was only the adults who were suffering from chronic kidney disease. There were around children who were around 10 years of age who were also already victim to a chronic kidney disease. So these are all problems that I noticed when we visited Anuradhapura last year. But also we've seen the hill country community mainly suffering during the heavy rains because of landslides. Well, it could, mounds of earth could fall onto their cultivations, onto their houses, infrastructure damage, maybe even the cut of electricity supply. A lot of problems are related to adverse climatic conditions for the people in the hill country areas and also in the coastal areas. Ocean rise is a big problem for small island nations like Sri Lanka. Even in countries like the Maldives, the rise of sea levels is a massive problem. And the rise of sea levels could lead to the density of fish population in that area and also the change of the constituency of the seawater due to certain climatic reasons. All of this could affect the biodiversity in the sea. That's one aspect, and also the people who rely on certain jobs related to the ocean. So these are a few vulnerable communities who have seen suffer during adverse climatic conditions. And yeah. So you also asked how these people are coping. The people in dry areas, in arid regions of the country during dry climate conditions, needless to say, they aren't coping well. They don't have water supply for agriculture, which is their main livelihood. They also don't have water for consumption. Now, how I feel this can be solved is if parties intervene to ensure proper water supply, clean water supply for these people for their living purposes. Because clearly it has not happened. Those people told us that promises have been made by those who were in power at certain times in the country. But no one had kept those promises. Those people have to trek miles to the nearest town, and these are very remote villages, so far away from the city, from the bustling cities, so far away. So it's really difficult for these people to get some water for themselves, but they do it every single day because they have to. They have families to run, they have families to earn for. So they certainly are coping well, and that's how I believe this problem can be solved. As for the coastal communities, the sea levels can be controlled by restoring mangroves. Mangroves have been getting damaged throughout the past few decades. People cut mangroves. In those marshy areas, they use those for other activities which are really harmful for the mangrove plantations in the country. So if the government or some authority, any relevant authority, takes steps to restore the mangrove cultivation in the country, I feel like coastal erosion, and through coastal erosion, we could prevent the rise of sea levels, and that would certainly help the coastal community of the country that's heavily reliant on the fisheries industry. And also the hill country, we noticed that many people lose their residences during landslides and matters as such. That's because their houses have been built in areas that are extremely risky, up mountains where there is absolutely no security. There are barely any trees to hold the soil strong. So if, you know, somehow if it's prevented, if the people are stopped from building houses in such risky areas, and if there are certain how do we say it, if there are like certain walls put up to prevent, or maybe some measure to prevent these landslides, I feel like that would really help the people in hilly areas who are affected, especially during heavy rain situations through landslides.
Expanding on that, Therunee, what are the most shocking or maybe the most surprising impact from climate changes?
Yes, Anudhi. Now, although from the newsroom I have seen different types of climate conditions and their effects being reported, something that I can definitely tell you for sure, something that I saw with my own eyes, was the experience that I told you about in Anuradhapura. When I traveled to Anuradhapura, I saw the things that these people are going through. It's just unreal. We are sitting here in the midst of extreme luxury, while those people are going through so much due to the adverse climate and weather conditions that they are experiencing. Now, even during times that they are supposed to experience rainfall, uh, for some reason they just do not experience rainfall as they should, and this has led to extremely shocking effects, such as their plantations being destroyed. And when I say destroyed, it's just dried up, it's just a bare land. They say this is where my cultivation used to be, and there's just nothing, not even a trace of any kind of plantation. The earth is cracked. And also, one thing that I must add is that in addition to their climate related issues, these people face a really big threat of wild elephants. So, in addition to the climate related problems, they also face such an issue, which I feel like can be prevented if strong enough measures are taken. But for some reason, once again, they're just battered even more and more by more problems. And the muddy water that they have for consumption, it's just horrific to see the condition of the water that they bathe their little infants using, the water that they use to cook their food, the water that they feed their babies. It's just horrid. It's mud water. And sometimes, if there are certain families where, let's say, a single mother is raising the children, the mother has to maybe leave the child in someone else's care and then walk all the way, maybe 6-7 kilometers to the nearest town to buy a 5 liter bottle of water. And they still have to carry on with life. They still have to engage in agricultural activities. They also told us that now this water shortage is connected to the dry weather that they're constantly experiencing. But because of that, they have to travel to the town, and that's a few hours of the day, right? So that's a few hours that they could be using to engage in their plantations. So this also results in the spending of time that they have to earn some money. They have to go and spend that time on collecting water. So this is also how the adverse weather conditions, it's like a web. It links a whole lot of problems, and it's finally just dumped on the people in the region. So that's an experience that I noticed. And also chronic kidney disease, there's no escaping from that. And also, given that those areas are mostly rural areas, it's not like the hospital facilities are the best. When they need dialysis, they need to go to certain parts, to certain hospitals, and it's not exactly convenient for them given the condition of their roads. There is so much more. But all these problems that stem from climate related issues are linked to the problems that already exist in those areas. And as a result of that, the people of certain parts of the country, especially like Anuradhapura, are heavily battered by these problems. And it's just a constant struggle for them that seems to be never ending.
Now, focusing on public perception. What are the most common misconceptions about climate changes that you have encountered through your report? And also, how do you work to address these misconceptions in your stories?
Now, there are several misconceptions among the general public that certainly need to be tackled if we want to progress forward from this point. And one main misconception is that climate change is solely an environmental linked issue. People think that once they get past a certain thing, it's just done. But no, climate change, climate related issues are like a web. It spans over so many so many parts of our life, so many aspects of our life, such as health, economy, social stability. All of these factors are affected. It's like a billiard ball where the ball just hits other balls and then it just goes all over the place if there's some kind of imbalance created. And also, the second misconception that I think is a big problem is that climate change is a distant issue. Now, people think that climate change is a problem for the future. But that's not the case. That could also result in pretty much immediate results, and also not just only in the very long run, also in the long run as well as the short run. Small climatic changes could eventually build up and lead to matters such as natural disasters, which could cost lives to the country, which could cost money to the country, property to the country, a whole lot of problems linked to natural disasters, and also extreme weather conditions, which may not be as bad as natural disasters, but could also have a very heavy impact on the society. Another misconception is that people think that individual actions do not matter. They think that it's fine to burn polythene, let's say, but they do not think about what if so many people think that it's okay to burn polythene? The gases, the toxic gases would be entering the atmosphere that could result in health problems. Those are man-made issues. So they think that such problems, such problematic actions from their end are fine as long as it's limited to just them. But the real problem is such problematic actions are not just limited to one person. People all around the world are contributing in certain ways to these climate-related issues. And that is a massive problem that needs to be tackled. People need to understand that if we want to progress forward from these climate-related issues, we all need to work as a team. You may or may not know the people, but then as long as we do what's safe for the environment, I believe that certain climate-related issues can certainly be prevented. Now, how to address these three misconceptions? As I said, we need to let the people know what's right and what's wrong, but also as the media, the role that we play is sometimes people may not take our word for it, so we take experts on our shows. Sometimes we get them on our news. We get them to talk to the people through the media so that the people do understand that this advice does come from an expert and they know that that's what's best for the environment. And also, people think that economic growth and environmental protection are not compatible. This is completely wrong. Economic growth can certainly be achieved in a sustainable manner. And to mitigate this problem, we can go for a green economy, which can also be pushed forward through policy analysis. Now, if the government makes sure to implement green economy policies and head towards sustainable development through those initiatives, we can certainly prove wrong the misconception that economic growth and environmental protection are incompatible.
Considering audience engagement, what kind of stories do you find most resonating with the public?
So, when it comes to reporting, I believe people mostly focus on personal impact stories. I won't say they like hearing this, but they feel the impact of hearing someone else's personal experience, how a certain climate-related issue focuses on one person. That is why I've noticed that in news, not just in the company that I work for, but in also other companies, people pick one citizen from the affected part and they say, this is so and so. This is what is happening to him because of this particular reason. So that stories like that focus on just one person instead of the community as a whole, I believe reaches a larger number of people and people feel the impact of that person much more. And the ability to delve deep into someone's life and to delve deeply into the problems that particular individual faces because of a certain climate-related issue, I feel like gives the people a better understanding of how deep-rooted that issue is and what people should do to eliminate those issues. And also health impact stories. People, of course, everyone wants to live a long and happy life. Health is wealth, they say. So people are always concerned about how to be more careful over their health. And certainly, needless to say, climate change and climate-related issues have a huge impact on health, on the health aspect of our lives, and people always care about the problems that could get in the way of living a long and healthy life. So the media focusing on health impact related stories concerning climate change, climate related issues seems to hit the people a little bit harder. So those are the two types of stories that I believe the media mostly focuses on when trying to reach out to the people concerning climate change.
Therunee, for our audience who are looking to make a difference, who want to support and take actions on climate issues, can you give them some sort of a practical advice based on your experience?
Now, your question was how can citizens better support or engage with issues that we report on? There are several methods. Let's start with personal actions. Now, a main misconception, as I said previously, was that people believe that their personal actions do not have an effect on climate change. So, to solve this problem, I have a few solutions for you. First, let's try to reduce the carbon footprint. Let's try to use energy efficiently. We can switch to LED bulbs, simple factors such as that. Try not to waste energy. Through transportation, even for health, it's good. You can try walking instead of maybe taking a vehicle for a short distance. Now, all these things, they have a small amount, maybe even a small amount, but it may have an effect on climate change in the long run. So that's what I was talking about earlier. And also your consumer choices. Always settle for sustainable brands. Brands that are not toxic for the environment. We've always promoted the reduction of plastic, the reduction of polythene, go for eco-friendly alternatives. All these factors that we do not think about do have a massive effect, as I said again, in the long run. Also, we can engage the society, right? The civic engagement, community and civic engagement. We can make the people more aware. If you are an expert, if you are knowledgeable in this regard, you can hold workshops for people who may not be aware of. You can hold workshops for the children so that they know how to tackle these climate related problems from a very young age itself, and also community involvement. There can be certain activities, social activities that we can do, like tree planting maybe. A community could get together, plant some trees, that'll help the environment. And also, if it's in a hilly area, maybe we could prevent a landslide in the future by growing trees. And also financial actions. Green investments is a very important thing. People can invest in green or sustainable funds that will, in the long run, promote, we can say even green energy or anything that's healthy for our environment and for our climate. And also innovation and collaboration. If you are creative, if you have the knowledge, you could try to develop something, be innovative, and maybe in that run up, you could end up with a new invention that could be very helpful in climate related issues, in tackling climate related issues. And also, you yourself can educate. You can maybe pass on the education or the knowledge that you have to someone else, or else if you aren't knowledgeable enough, make this an opportunity to educate yourself about climate related issues, the root cause, what you can do, and the deeper running issues concerning climate change. It's never too late to learn. There are books on this. We have the internet at the touch of the tip. We're just one click away from millions and millions of sources of knowledge. So make this an opportunity to educate yourself. And this is how I believe someday we can educate ourselves and even the society to tackle climate related issues.
Starting with your personal experience, we could touch what are the climate challenges we have at the moment. Looking ahead, are there emerging climate issues or trends you believe will become more significant in the near future? And also, how should the public prepare and respond?
Well, when it comes to climate related issues, of course, they're all negative, but climate related trends could be both positive and negative. So let's take a look at both. Let's first focus on issues. Rising sea levels. This is a problem that mainly occurs due to coastal erosion, and coastal cities not only in Sri Lanka. We cited only Sri Lanka previously, that's because we are living here, but that does not mean that it happens only here. It happens everywhere around the world, and maybe even on a larger scale than what we experience in Sri Lanka. So it's essential, it's just essential for the government in power to make sure that the people in those coastal areas and even the marine biodiversity is conserved, that the people of the area are not let down in such cases. The government needs to take steps to prevent factors that cause the rise of sea levels and even the change of constituency of the sea water. Now, also extreme weather events. It has been said by experts in the field that the world has been experiencing a lot more extreme climate and weather fluctuations all around the world. It's not just in Sri Lanka. There are extreme heat waves and also extreme rains and natural disasters that are caused due to extreme weather conditions or extreme climatic conditions. So communities need to strengthen their disaster preparedness, and there need to be authorities to warn the people when in case of some kind of a natural disaster that's linked to climate change. We need the authorities to take more control of the situation, to help the people out, and also it's better to prevent the problem before it occurs. So the authorities in power, the government, they all need to take steps to prevent the root causes of such climate related issues. And also climate migration. Now this is, it's also seen in Sri Lanka, but also in other countries. People who are affected by climates, they are displaced, they lose their homes, so they do move to certain safe locations, and sometimes such people are just not resettled in new areas. They're not reintegrated into the society, and that's a huge problem. This is basically the people's lives, their lives are completely jeopardized due to this. So the authorities need to take steps to make sure that these people are relocated to houses just like they had before, and that they're reintegrated into a new society. And also biodiversity loss. Extreme climate conditions could lead to the potential extinction of endemic species, and we need to conserve biodiversity because after all that is what maintains the equilibrium of the world. We live because of that equilibrium, and conservation efforts from our end, such as preventing poaching, and also the government taking measures to safeguard these animals and ensure that animals and even plants, of course, we need to make sure that they all coexist in perfect harmony, and that we are able to conserve biodiversity, so that will tackle one such climate related problem. Now let's talk about a positive trend instead of all the negative ones. We are living in a rapidly developing world. Technology is constantly progressing by the second. There's a new innovation popping up somewhere around the world every single second of the day. Now, this technological development can certainly lead to new innovations, new inventions that we can be using to tackle climate-related challenges, and renewable energy. That we can make advances, huge strides in renewable energy, and we have seen that happen as well. And also sustainable agriculture. Agriculture is something that the GDP, especially in our country, is heavily reliant on. Maybe not in economically advanced countries, but especially in third world countries like ours, it's agriculture that plays the biggest role in the economy. So sustainable agriculture is something that we can use once again, as I said before, to make sure that environmental conservation and economic development can be balanced perfectly. So those are the trends and issues that I think we need to focus on.
As the final notice before we wrap it up, according to your point of view, Therunee, what role should media play in shaping public understanding of climate issues and driving climate action?
So as the media, Sanudhi, I believe that it's our role to make it prominent to the society, this climate related issues. We need to make this topic resurface, make them understand how crucial it is and the grave impact that climate related issues have on the society as a whole. So we also have the responsibility of bringing to the people the most accurate and the most timely information concerning climate change and climate related issues. And in case of, as I said before, if there are any positive trends, we try to push that forward as well, so that the people could maybe incorporate those new technological advances into their lives in a certain way, so that they also can contribute to solving this problem that we all are facing as a world, actually. And also, we can bring certain issues to the face of authorities, certain problems that are faced by communities, as we talked about before. There are plenty of vulnerable communities in the country, so we can bring their problems to the front. We can show that to the authorities. We connect the general public to the authorities and the authorities to the general public. In case of any disaster situation, we connect the authorities to the general public. We let them know what's happening and what to avoid, what to do. We promote the safety in case of extreme measures, or else we also, the moment we see a problem coming related to climate change, we make sure to contact the authorities and tell the people, convey the message on how to immediately put a stop to that particular issue. So concerning factors like that, I believe that the media has an immense role to play in society by connecting people around the world. And that is a huge responsibility, and I feel like the media is doing that. We are highlighting the cruciality of climate change, climate related issues. We bring up such matters, and I think that's a very vital role that the media is playing.
Thank you, Therunee, for your insightful stories and reflection. Certainly, those highlight the urgence of taking actions and awareness toward climate issues that happen in the country.
Thank you, Sanadi, for having me. I hope our audience had something to take away from everything that we discussed right throughout.
To our audience, I hope this discussion has deepened your understanding and inspire you to take action. Being informed is a great first step for making a difference. Thanks for joining us today. Have a great day.